So I'm here with a quick just video showing a few features I like in Android lately. And these aren't necessarily new features, but I think they're features that are really good and kind of showcase where Android is kind of starting to leap ahead of iOS. I think, as folks who, like myself, who are blind, we have to stay on top of this because this is a never-changing thing. I've been looking at iOS 26 and then comparing it to what Google's doing. And it's, I got to be honest, WWDC and iOS has been somewhat of a letdown for me because when you look at things that, as an adult, that I would use on a daily basis, iOS didn't really offer anything as far as voiceover is concerned to me that makes my adult life better. Screen recognition is still the same screen recognition we had, when it was introduced in 2019, 2018, whatever that was, 2017. It's never been updated. We have no OCR capability that matters of any sort of value. It does its automatic thing where it beeps at you and throws out a bunch of garbage most of the time, fork, knife, whatever. It's much like what we're seeing with Apple AI in the cider world, where it's just not great. For example, and I'll maybe demo this in a future video, but one thing I'm doing with TalkBack descriptions on Android is we have a weather channel. I'm in Louisville, and we have a media company called Wave 3 News, and they have an app that basically just plays music and the weather, for 24 hours a day. And what I'll do is get onto that, through the app, and I will take there's a gesture I use with 3 fingers where I just tap and hold, and it basically does the TalkBack descriptions, and it lets me hear what that video is showing on the screen. And then what I do with that is I can then follow up a question now. So TalkBack actually, in this newest version that they have, allows you to follow back a question. And so, for example, it told me that it was 84 degrees yesterday. So then I said, is there any rain nearby? And it said that, yes, there was rain in Lexington, Kentucky, and Frankfort, Kentucky. And I said, does it look like it's heading to Louisville? And it said yes. And it showed the trajectory of the storm was heading to Louisville. And sure enough, obviously Frankfort is about 45 minutes to an hour away from here. And within about a 45-minute stretch, we started getting thunderstorms. And so it was really, really cool to kind of actually see how the radar and how things were working. And, just with things built into my screen reader. I know you can kind of do this with the ChatGPT Siri implementation, but it's sluggish and kind of slow. The other thing that I used it for, and this is John's from the Blind Android Users, he brought this up to me, and I never even thought of it, but I used it last night just because I was curious. I used DoorDash to grab a few things I needed for my house here, and I needed some lotion, and for my skin's getting kind of dry. So anyway, I had them deliver, and so accessibility wise, I can usually tell oh, they're 5 minutes away, they're 2 minutes away, but it doesn't really give you a lot of detail. 2 minutes, could be 5 minutes depending on where they actually are. So it'd be kind of nice to know what road they're on. And so John had mentioned to me, he said, hey, with Gemini, you can actually ask it where they are. Where's my driver? And I never really thought of it. So I held down the side key on my Pixel. There's a option when you're in DoorDash or any app that says ask about app, but it basically just attaches a screenshot. And so I just asked, what road is my driver on? And it came back and told me. And it's just stuff like that you just can't do on an iPhone yet, which is baffling to me. With voiceover, I mean, for so long, Apple has led the, and I'm not trying to say TalkBack doesn't have its problems. I'm not using iOS as my main, at this moment, I'm not using Android as my main device. That may change. I get tired of going back and forth, switching. But, I've been going through a little bit of depression lately and like just playing with stuff a little bit slower than I normally do. But like I have been looking at, comparing this iOS 26 and Android and kind of just where we are. And anyway, that's just my overall thoughts here. So I'm going to show you one thing, as my cat makes himself known. So, hey, buddy.
Like, button,
so
button. Max changed back to HBO Max on Wednesday.
Here's an article I found. So like on any Pixel or any Android device, you kind of can swipe over from the home screen with 2 fingers to get to this like sort of, top news channel. Yeah, you like that feature? top news features or top news stories that I think you might like. And then you can also choose the Google Now or just the Google button on the bottom left for me on a Pixel. So like there's like a toolbar with like Google, there's a voice search, there's Google search, and now there's like AI mode. And down the road maybe I'll get into this stuff. But if you just click on Google, it brings up like your favorite stories or things you might be recommended in, and it kind of allows you to scroll and do things. And then they've added a new feature I really like in here where you can listen to a daily briefing, and it's AI. It's basically the Notebook LM kind of style, if you've listened to that at all. And it's basically like 9 minutes to 14 minutes of 3 stories that it thinks you're going to enjoy hearing about, and they go into detail. And it's for the most part pretty cool. I really do enjoy it. It's something I kind of look forward to hearing every day. But on top of that, let's just say I want to listen to this story here about
button. Max changed back to HBO Max.
Max changed back to HBO. So if I double tap on this, I hope this will come through the mic. We'll find out.
0% progress bar. Chrome 0%. HBO Max returns as Max name changes. Customize and control Google Chrome.
I can click on this customize and control Google Chrome. And I'm sorry, TalkBack is really fast, but I'm just going to walk you through this. So I'm going to double tap on this.
Pop-up window.
Now,
Find and page.
if
listen, remove result. Listen to this page.
There's this option called listen to page. And if I double tap on this,
Chrome.
Max changed back to HBO Max on Wednesday. Published by Variety. Update. The flip is done. Scroll down to see a new HBO Max marketing spot announcing the return to the streamer's original name after 2 years as Max. Warner Brothers Discovery has settled on a date to reskin the Max streamer back to HBO Max early this Wednesday morning, according to Twitter insiders. The flip won't.
It basically lets you listen to any article you want without a lot of problems. And then, if I like, sometimes like TalkBack will start jabbering about video controls or whatever. And I've seen this on iOS as well. So what I'll do is it's reading to me. A lot of times I'll mute TalkBack speech with a 3-finger double tap and hold. And that will like silence TalkBack until I'm ready for it to, turn back on and do that same gesture again. And it like starts talking to me. So anyway, I thought I would just share this because it's something that I don't know that gets a lot of talk. They used to have something built into the G Assistant where you could say, read this screen to me. With Gemini, that doesn't seem to be working for me. But but this is so much better, in my opinion, because it's exactly what I want. And I've not seen it really fail. And if it did fail, what I could do is always share it out to like Edge and read it in reader mode. But like I said, I've not actually encountered a page it doesn't read yet. So anyway, that's kind of my quick little Android tip for the day.
Search, button, Switcher Studio, sponsored, button, the bet, notification expanded, on, not connected, Bluetooth, but, collapsed, top stories, Susan Pop, expand, button, collapsed, Edge, stop, button.